resurrected the coil gun. So I've got the new SCR in here, it's nice and chunky, and 3D printed a box for the back to hide away all the 800 volt stuff from here. Put in some extra connectors, so I've now got a nice isolated banana post for put the voltage in, and I also got some alligator clips with these multimeter attachments. So my flute came with some alligator clips you can clip on the end. These were aftermarket ones, and so they've got this nice little receptacle here which I can fit my multimeter probes in, which I had been trying to do an automated charging system and some other instrumentation that was built in using Arduinos and DACs and stuff like that, and it was just not working very well, and I ended up, that's how I killed the last SCR, was the charging circuit didn't cut off in time, and that suffered a bit of an overvoltage condition. So going back to manual, just going to use the Variac and the trusty fluke, so I know I've got an accurate reading, and yeah, so just tidy that up a bit. I haven't quite got around to putting a cover over here. This is just the 9 volt trigger stuff, which is all isolated anyway. Did some maths and redid the resistor here. This one's slightly lower value to allow a bit more current through, so the 9 volt battery will now basically ping the gate on the SCR as hard as it'll go, so that should turn on nice and fast. What else have I done? Oh yes, instrumentation. So I've made what's called a Wojcicki coil here, which is a current sensing device. It's basically, there's a toroid that I 3D printed in 2 halves and fed the wire through the centre of, and then when it comes out the end you just coil it all the way back around, and then I've got that connected to one of my oscilloscope probes, and then on the other one we've just got a normal good old-fashioned current shunt. This one's rated for 200 amps, which is nowhere near to what I think this is. Well, I know now that it's putting out quite a lot more than that, but the pulses are only about half a microsecond long, sort of 500 to 600 nanoseconds. So I figured that I'd just start off slow and see if this started to heat up or had any problems. I don't really want to melt it, but it's only about 20 bucks, so I figured I'd take it to the limit, and it turns out that it will take the full current from this, and it doesn't warm up at all, which is very nice. So what I found is that last night I did some tests with it just like this, with the coil empty, and it peaks around 4000 amps, and it rings, which is the thing that I wasn't expecting. I was expecting a nice solid dump of everything through here in one go, but no, it actually rings about, well, I haven't counted the number of times, but yeah, it takes about, like I said, half a microsecond to finish, to settle right back down again. And yeah, so got the scope out, and now I'm going to do some tests with the projectile, because being in there is definitely going to change the characteristics somewhat, and I want to find out by how much. So I picked the 4 best traces from the runs without a projectile in them, and the thing that struck me about them was how similar they are. So there's a small difference in amplitude between them, but the actual shape of the waveform is very consistent between runs. So the top trace here, the yellow one, is the current shunt, and then the bottom one is the Wojcicki coil, which apparently you can apply an integrator to this and that will give you the actual current. What's happening here is the rise time, the slope of the wave is indicating what the current is changing over time, whereas this is just a normal current shunt, so that's what the current's doing. This is in 500 millivolt divisions, so the shunt was 200 amps, 50 millivolts, so the biggest peak I saw in here is about 1000 millivolts, or 1 volt, which gives pretty much 4000 amps in the peak voltage and peak current, and then you can see it rings over there to, these are 50 nanoseconds per division, and there's about 10, I think, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 before it starts to really peter out. So yeah, that's without the projectile. And now with added projectile. So I've got 3 decent scope shots from this, and again they're very, very similar, aside from slight changes in amplitude, and the waveform is also a lot more similar to the ones without the projectile as I was expecting. The peak current is much higher. You can see that there's a shoot, one of them's nearly at the 1500 millivolt line there, which is about 6000 amps, and the overall length of the pulse is a little bit shorter. The other ones were around 600 nanoseconds long. These are about 500, so slightly higher current, slightly shorter pulse, but otherwise very similar. So there we go. It wouldn't be a proper coil gun video if I didn't shoot something. So what I've got here is a honeydew melon, which was left over from my last lot of playing with the vacuum cannon. It's gone a little bit squishy, but not too bad, hopefully. And I've also dragged out my old Casio camera, which will do, if I remember rightly, 1920 by 1280 at 1000 frames a second. So rather than using the Chronos to get that slowish slow-mo, I'll have that set up on here, and I've got the Chronos set to 7700 frames a second, and a bit of lighting, and roll camera. Right, well, not that exciting. I kind of didn't really expect it to explode or anything, but it's gone in there, and there's pretty sure I'm going to find the projectile in there, and it's cracked the back of my box quite well. So I'll have to get another one of those, and I'll go digging for the projectile. Okay, so let's slice this up here. Oh, yeah, I think that's it. And there she is. Now, that's where it went in. That was the end that was pointed towards the camera, and it was sitting about there, but it's been all the way through to here and bounced back again. So yeah, oh, that smells quite sweet, but I don't think I'm going to be eating it. Right, well, aside from breaking my container there, that was pretty boring. So what I'm going to try now is an idea I had a while ago, and that is basically put a piece of dowel here which fits in there quite nicely, and then I'm going to 3D print a splitter kind of thing, a cone that will go on the end of there, and then I'll arrange it so that there is no gap between the projectile and the back of this, and then when I set it off, this whole lot should fling forwards, and maybe I'll get some more exciting video. Okay, so I made this cone 3D printed and put on the dowel, which goes nicely into there, and with that in place the projectile sits pretty much exactly where I want it to on the line there, and I've resurrected the honeydew melon and we'll give it a go. Okay, so it wasn't quite as exciting as I'd hoped, but you can see it's pierced this here. It's a bit juicy. Didn't really go into it like I'd hoped. It's kind of bounced off. The skin here is pretty tough, and it's not particularly sharp. It's just 3D printed, but it definitely worked as a concept. I think that they've got the projectiles hit the side of the shaft here somehow at some point, which unfortunately wasn't captured in the high speed, and it sort of mushed the end of that a little bit, which I was expecting. But yeah, partial success.